Okay, it's 7 o'clock and time to begin our regularly scheduled Baxter City Council meeting. And I guess we'll start out with roll call. City Administrator.
Councilmember Cross. Here.
Looks like he's there.
Yeah, let me unmute. I am here.
Yeah, if you just unmute quick for this one.
Or give us a sign.
Councilmember Holman.
Yes.
Councilmember Licio.
Yep.
Councilmember Tabbitt.
Here.
Mayor Olson.
Present. We're all here. Good. Next thing is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If you would rise, if you can, where you are, we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice.
for all. Thank you. And welcome to our council meeting, number 2 in this configuration. And hopefully we've got some of the bugs worked out and you're able to see us and hear us. And without further ado, we'll move on. Administrator, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
There are none, Mayor.
Okay. Public comments at this time. Do we have public comments that have been submitted?
We had 4 comments that were submitted via the comments at baxtermn.gov email address. All 4 of those pertain to items that are on the agenda, so I will read them at the appropriate time during the meeting.
Okay. Well, moving forward then, we'll move to the consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, citizen, staff, or meeting attendee can request one or more of the items be pulled from the consent agenda, and the item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve city council minutes from April 7th, 2020. B, approve the payment of bills and finance report. C, approve the WSB contract fee amendment for the 2020 Fairview Road, Golf Course Drive, Excelsior Road and Trail Connection, and the 2020 Oakwood Drive Trail Connection improvements. D, schedule the annual Stormwater Public Informational Meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 at 7 o'clock or shortly thereafter. E, award the Whiskey Creek Project Grant Writing Services Agreement to H.R. Green. F, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from February 5th, 2020.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Licio. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, we've got to go.
Got to do a roll call. That's correct.
Yep. So Cross,
Aye.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Aye.
Tabbitt,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye. Gonna take a while to get this under control for me anyway. Sorry about that. And we're looking forward ahead then to number 8, other business. 8A is adopt resolution number 2020-031, awarding the contract to R.L. Larson in the amount of $8,549,440.22 for the base bid and bid alternate A for the 2020 South Interceptor, North Forestfield and Forestfield Stormwater Improvements Project. City Administrator.
Yep. Brian Drown from Bolton and Mink, who is our contract engineer on this project, will have the podium here for a few minutes. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Pursuant to City Council approval, the project was advertised per legal requirements and bids were accepted at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, February 25th. 4 bids for the base bid and bid alternate A work were received. They were from R.L. Larson Excavating in the amount of $8,549,444.22. Geislinger and Sons in the amount of $9,530,920.53. Peakley Underground Incorporated in the amount of $11,354,247.97. And J.R. Furchy Incorporated in the amount of $13,208,299.12. The bids were presented at the March 5th Utility Commission meeting, and awarding the base bid and bid alternate A was recommended by the Utility Commission. Bolton and Mink is recommending approval to R.L. Larson. We have discussed the bid alternate A work with Canute Nelson, and they've requested that be included in the project. So we're recommending approval to R.L. Larson Excavating in the amount of $8,549,440.20. With that, I will turn it over to Trevor to go through some of the RCA.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. In your RCA, city staff had laid out 4 options for you for consideration for tonight. The first one is to award the project as presented by consulting engineer Brian Drown. Number 2 is to reject the bids and re-advertise the bids. Option 3 is to reject the bids and not proceed with the project. And 4th option that staff laid out was to reject the bids and direct staff to revise the scope of the project and then rebid the project at a later date. Staff is recommending to go ahead and award the project to R.L. Larson. I don't know if the finance director wants to add anything on the financial overview, but the financial overview was spelled out in the RCA. So then I turn it back to the mayor and council if you have any questions of Brian or I. Or
Council-
Jeremy
Council,
on
any
the
questions
financing.
of the 2 engineers? It's it was laid out pretty well in our information that we received prior to tonight, what the options are, what the ramifications are of each of those options. And I guess we're at that point where we make a final decision, on this particular issue. Administrator, do you have something else to add, or?
No, Mayor, I believe the RCA sums it up, and with that RCA does indicate the financial implications or picture as Finance Director Vasinic has laid out in graph form. So I have nothing else to add at this time.
Woman?
Your Honor, Council Brad, were those comment letters appropriate at this time, or is that something else on the agenda?
Nope, you are correct. Thank you for reminding me. Again, getting used to the new norm. So do have 2 comments or emails that were submitted via the comments email address that was posted with the notice of the electronic meeting. The first one is from Dan Keepers, and it states, "Dear City Council, we hope this message finds you. We are writing once again to support the Forest View Road, Sewer, and Water Project. We understand we are in unprecedented territory with the pandemic, but we know that this will pass and that the road must move forward as planned. To continue to delay this extreme overdue upgrade would not only waste taxpayer dollars spent to research this project, but also negligent on the part of the City Council, as our road is in terrible state of disrepair. It is crumbling horribly, and pothole patching done by Anderson Brothers only last days. We would encourage you to all drive our roads and see for yourselves. It is desperately needed to be addressed, and it needs to be done now. We understand that there might be some economic concerns with the current economy, but those will be corrected, and we need to think into the future and not be short-sighted over the next few months. The age of the homes in our neighborhood are also to the point that if we do not get sewer and water, most households will need to replace their septic systems anyways for a far greater cost. We are blessed in this neighborhood to be located on the Mississippi River, and we take our stewardship to the natural resources seriously. We shudder to think the damage that being done to our river due to failed septic systems. This has been an issue that has been ongoing before we were homeowners in this neighborhood. It has been postponed, disregarded by past councils, and frankly, we can no longer wait. We ask that you act responsibly and confirm this project. Sincerely, Dan and Kate Keepers of River Vista Court. The other email that was submitted was from Jeff Sell, and it states, to Mayor Olson, council members, and Baxter City staff. I am the owner of Baxter Main Street property located at the northeast corner of 371 and County Road 48. I support the South Interceptor Improvement Project and the resolution awarding the contract to R.L. Larson. This project brings together the long-range vision cast by the Planning Commission for the future growth and prosperity of Baxter. It's time, and hopefully you agree and move the project forward, or move forward with the project this year. Thank you, Jeff Sell.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other comments, questions? I know that from time to time, we've heard people tell us that nobody wants this project, and they've never talked to anybody who does want the project. And you know, it's hard to really align that up with what's actually happened. Just last week, I had 2 correspondences from people that, other than what we've just heard from, that have said the same thing. We need this. We need to get going on this. One said, I bought this house in 89 or 99, I forget which it was. And he said, I was told back then that this project was going to happen. So not surprised by it. It's just, I'm surprised that it hasn't been done. So I think that there's a group of people that do want this project to get done and move on. Not everybody, of course not. We understand that. But to say nobody wants it, I don't think that that's a fair statement either. So I guess if there's no other comments, then I would be looking for a motion. Mr. Holman?
Your Honor, based on the recommendation, all of the testimony, work, studies that we've reviewed as a council, and the recommendation of the Utilities Commission, consulting engineer, and our staff engineering, I would recommend option 1, that we award the contract to R.L. Larson.
I have a motion by Todd.
Second.
I have a second by Council Member Tabbitt. Any further discussion, conversation? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Cross.
Nay.
Councilmember Holman.
Yes.
Councilmember Licio.
yes,
Councilmember Tabbitt.
Yes.
Mayor Olson.
Yes. Well, thank you, first of all, for all of your time you've put into this this discussion over the last 2, probably 3 years, and the tough decisions, but we've had a vote and we move forward. So that brings us to B, consider adopting resolution 2020-032, amending the special assessment terms for the North Forest View segment. I know Brad, or you or Jeremy going to run with this?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction. As we adopted the assessment roll back on March 17th, the council asked us to turn over every rock and present some additional financial considerations regarding the assessments that were to be levied in conjunction with the North Forest View project. Finance Director Vasinik and myself have put together some scenarios for you, and I'll let Mr. Vasinik summarize those for you. You there, Jeremy?
You gotta unmute yourself there.
Sorry about that. My bandwidth, the further you get away is, I guess I'm at the end of the building. It doesn't work very good. So good thing I have IT right next door here. But,
Yeah.
one of the perks, I guess. As Brad alluded to, we put together, I guess, 3 scenarios, and I'm kind of trying to look at it because I'm not at my desk right now. I apologize because of the bandwidth issue. But for the council to consider, that might help alleviate a little bit of the financial concern, some of the things that are within our ability to do in anticipation of issuing debt for the project. And I did lay those out in the request for council action and as part of a resolution if you choose to accept 1, 2, or all 3 of those options. The first one being to extend the payment timeline for any partial or full payment of the special assessment without interest. Currently, we have in our ordinance, as part of our assessment policy, 30 days to make any prepayments of special assessments in full or partial without interest. And this is really done as part of the process so that we can determine and structure the bonds and know how much debt we need to issue so that we're not issuing more than what we actually need to issue because of the inability for us to actually call those bonds in early if somebody were to pay those assessments off. Having not structured those bonds yet and anticipating doing that a little bit later this summer, it certainly would be within our ability and to extend that partial payment term to June 30th without interest. So what that would do is change that from the April 16th date up until June 30th, that anyone wishing to make a partial or full payment can do so without interest. And that would give them 105 days then from the date that the assessment roll was originally adopted to make payment partial or full on that assessment. The second option would be to reduce the interest rate that we're charging, the accrued interest rate that's charged in 2020 from the estimated 4.5%, which again is based on the bond rate when we sell the bonds later this year, to a flat 2.5% for this year. It's anticipated that that bond interest rate this year probably will be in the upper 3s to low 4% based on the current market, but we won't know that till we actually do sell the debt. So this would provide some additional relief by setting that rate for 2020's interest at 2.5%. And then the third option would be to extend the assessment repayment term from our current policy of 15 years to 20 years. What this does is it reduces the overall annual payment, keeping in mind that that would extend that payment out for 20 years as opposed to 15, but it would provide some upfront reduction in the actual payment when that first payment is on the property taxes beginning with the first half next May of 2021. Certainly wouldn't preclude somebody from paying off their assessment at some point in the future, and they could still pay it off at the end of year 15 if they chose to do so, but at least it would provide a little bit more flexibility by lowering that annual payment. So we laid those out, I guess, in a resolution format, I guess, just looking for council input on if you wanted to extend any or all of those items for consideration.
And Jeremy, it'd be my understanding that any or all of those would not harm us or put us in a bad financial position.
That's correct. As I indicated in the request for council action, currently the municipal bond market is fairly flat out to that 20-year term. So we're not seeing much of a change in that interest rate being penalized for going a little bit longer on that assessment rate. And historically, the city has issued debt for a little bit shorter than the actual assessment term. We've had the financial flexibility to front load the city's portion of those project costs, keeping that assessment, or that bond payment duration a little bit lower, which has resulted in lower interest rates as well. So we do have financial flexibility in that sense to extend that out to 20 years if that's something the council wanted to consider.
Council, any comments or thoughts?
I'm encouraged by all of those options.
I think that, one of my concerns was, and I expressed it to staff too, and now to you people, was kind of a precedent setting where we haven't done this in the past. Yeah, and I think the response or the answer is that we haven't been in this particular situation in the past either, where we've got, the project is well underway, and yet some extenuating circumstances, and so that maybe it deserves a second look with some of these options, which we maybe haven't done in the past. And today is a new normal. Next project maybe back to normal, that kind of a thing. So it probably is, again, it's something we haven't done before, but maybe is justifiable because of the situation we find ourselves in right now. Any other thoughts or comments? Are we interested in doing 1, 2, or all 3, or what are your thoughts there?
Mr. Mayor, if I can add, I think I would be willing to move forward on all 3, just as we've stated with everything so far. This isn't normal circumstances. I wouldn't expect that this would be standard practice for the foreseeable future, just that we're in a position right now where it seems like the right thing for us to do to maximize flexibility and remove whatever burden we're capable of. Because while this project is moving forward, it's still a difficult time for people.
Okay, anybody else? Then I would look for a motion for B. Consider adopting the revision of our assessment policy for this project.
I would make that motion.
Okay, motion by Licio,
Second.
second by Tabbitt. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross. Cross.
Aye.
Holman.
Yes.
Licio.
Aye.
Tabbitt.
Aye.
And Olson.
Yes. Okay, we move forward to C, approve option 1, 2, or 3 for street light locations along Fairview Road. Who's that going to be?
We have Chris Onmore and Chuck Rickard from WSB, who are the project engineers to that project, and I'll turn it over to them at this point.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Brad. So in your packet there, we've got 3 different options on the lights. And if you remember back to, I believe it was one of the work sessions, we had some conversations about where to place the lights, and we were, the direction we got from council at that time was to get those lights on the south side of the road to try and light the trail better. The Brainerd Public Utilities has got overhead wires out there, which is causing some issues out there with locating poles on that south side, more on the east end of the project. So what we are proposing here is to place the poles on the north side of the street. And we've got some photometrics in there that show it's probably the best option as far as lighting that trail goes, is because if we were to put those on the south side in the boulevard, with the way those lights cast the light out, everything is kind of more forward, so you're not going to get much light behind the poles anyway onto the trail. So what we're trying to show here with the photometrics, I think the best way to light that trail is actually from the north side of the road. So I guess I'll take any questions there. Again, I understand the reasoning here a while back, to try and do what we can with the trail, but that final exhibit there, the last 2 actually show the photometrics, and that relates to the foot candles. That's how they measure the light, the power of the light coming out from those fixtures.
Trevor, got anything to add to that before we?
Mayor, City Council, I don't know if I have much to add other than, according to the RCA, we checked where those poles are. Most of that power line is in MnDOT right away, so we don't have much authority on permitting it. So that's where we kind of run into the problem where, can we get them to move the power line? Can we get, do other options and keep the lights on the south side? But then when the photometrics come back and actually show that we're going to be more consistent and have more light on the trail by putting them on the north side, then it kind of become a no-brainer from an engineering standpoint. Well, the trail will actually be lit better by putting them on the north side. And that's got to do with the way that the heads are set up on the light poles themselves, those LED lights. They only go about 180 degrees, kind of, as you can see in those photometric layouts. They don't go behind the pole much. So actually by putting them on the north side, we actually get more light on the trail than when we were planning on putting them on the south side. So
Okay.
I'm recommending putting them on the north side.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions or comments for them?
Your Honor, I just support the engineer's recommendations.
Is that a motion?
I move we accept the engineer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Lucio. Roll call?
Cross,
Aye.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
Aye.
Tabit,
Aye.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Move on to D, approval of cancellation of the 2020 summer season of Baxter recreational programs. City Administrator?
Yeah. On April 14th at a special meeting, the Joint Recreation Powers Board met to discuss the summer program for the city of Baxter. As you're aware, the Baxter program is a collaboration between the school district and the city of Baxter to provide the recreational programming year-round for the city of Baxter. The discussions that day centered on the impacts that the pandemic is having on daily operations for both the city and the school district, the effects of the governor's order, as well as discussion on the COVID-19 guidelines that are outlined by the CDC regarding recreational programming. During that meeting, the board was informed that by local order and by the governor's executive order, the programming, spring and summer programming was suspended indefinitely, but due to the season, the administration or the community ed administration, Corey Reynolds and her staff did cancel spring soccer as it was set to primarily take place in the month of April. In that they did issue refunds to all those that did register. The school did talk about the governor's executive order and how that interfered or does interfere with school-sponsored activities, extracurricular activities. As noted in the RCA, they are not allowed to have any school-sponsored activities through the school year as the distant learning is in place. As such, unless the governor removes the restrictions, the extracurricular activities will not occur during the school year. Based on that and the loss of revenue within the community ed programs, the school board did furlough or lay off a majority of its community ed staff. We rely heavily on that department within the school district. They are utilized to coordinate and run our rec program. During that meeting, I did discuss with the committee or the board that the city does not have the resources to protect the health and safety of our park staff without altering levels of service. Current emphasis at this point has been maintaining the basic maintenance of our park system with our FTEs. Based on those guidelines that I referred to, we have not begun to hire any seasonal staff, and we're trying to determine as to how we can protect our FTEs as well as the seasonal staff to help us with the basic maintenance. But it should be noted that we do rely heavily on our seasonal staff to help us provide the services that we provide for the rec programs. And then lastly, based on the schedules of the programs for the summer, the board needed to consider timeline as advertisement deadline was approaching regarding the summer programs. And they needed to know if there was a postponement or a suspension or a cancellation in the immediate future to try and avoid having to do the publication cost. And then lastly, as I indicated, the data that has been out there has indicated that our peak in COVID cases would happen in late June, early July. And with that, that's in the center of our summer recreational season. As such, the CDC guidelines right now are not encouraging public gatherings greater than 10 persons. And having partook in several teleconferences, webinars, things of that nature. The one thing that has been very consistent or constant is that even with governor's executive order or stay-at-home order, whenever that's to be lifted, that social distancing is going to be a placeholder until a vaccination is provided. So we talked about that in the context of what does that mean in being able to provide the recreational programming this summer. So at the conclusion of that meeting, the Joint Powers Board ultimately determined that they saw that it was in the best interest of both parties to consider cancellation of the summer program, being that it is a joint powers agreement. And there is financial implications in the cancellation. The Joint Powers Board is recommending to both the school district and the city council to cancel the program. The Board of Education did meet last week to discuss the recommendation and voted 3-3, which means a tie. There was no action officially taken by the school district. As you read in the newspaper, some wanted to take the wait and see approach. But it's on your agenda tonight for discussion and consideration, and we're asking that you take action.
Okay.
With that said, the other two comments that we received did pertain to this item, and I'll read them real quick. The first one is from Bob Tauchis. He writes, "My name is Bob Tauchis, and I spoke with City Administrator about the pending decision to cancel summer Parks and Rec season. I personally believe it's too soon to make a decision, and every effort should be made to have a season. The start date may have to be pushed out, or alterations from business as usual may have to occur, but I believe the players are worth it. I understand the decision could be made as soon as Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. And I feel canceling the season this early is not putting forth the best effort possible and exploring all options to have a season. These social activities are desperately needed in the community and allow children and young adults the opportunity to complete positive physical, task, and social interaction. With all of the negative influences in the community and the extreme need for kids to have physical activity, we need positive influence in their lives. The schools have already shut down, and these kids are not going to sit home for 6 months and do nothing. We need to help them make good choices. To keep positive influences in their lives is extremely important. Several of these children do not have good home lives and need this as a way for them to communicate with other positive youth and coaches. I have gotten numerous emails from concerned parents since the article, and they would like to see every effort put forth for the players to play and have this positive influence in their lives. The season in their lives cannot be ever duplicated. It will be lost. The second one is from Julie Christensen, and it states, "Good morning. It has come to my attention that there will be a discussion about canceling the summer's Baxter Parks and Rec baseball and activity season. Although I understand the rationale of the discussion, I implore you to wait a little longer before making a decision. The baseball season is usually over by mid-July, which means that the season could be pushed back to begin in July and run through August. The children who join these activities have had so much taken from them during this past month, including school, social lives, and connection. Sports provides a way for these children to connect, be active, and have fun. Kids are looking forward to the possibility of being able to reconnect this summer. The governor is looking to lift the shelter-in-place order in a couple of weeks, and restrictions may begin to be lifted in May of 2020. It would be practical to wait to make a decision until mid to late May because this situation is changing daily and the recommendations are as well. Please table and wait to make a decision. These kids are counting on the possibility of a season and they do not care if it's later in the summer. Thank you for your consideration. Julie Christensen, parent.
Okay, thank you, Brad. I'm sure, like me, you've received a lot of emails and phone calls about this, and I don't think anybody is disagreeing with any of that. It's a tremendous issue. I had a son that, and I look at your pictures here, I think most all of you, other than Zach's got a few years to go, but the rest of us have all been through this age group, and we can imagine, what parents are going through. And so it's not that I don't think that we don't understand it. I think we all do. The question is what's safe, what's the wise thing to do? And there's been a lot of conversations, just kind of curious to hear what your thoughts are. Connie?
My thought would be to postpone making any type of final decision. I agree with the letter writers, and I've had numerous conversations with parents and some neighborhood kids and other people with the city. I don't think we need to decide tonight. I think if we can move forward and have a later start, run it July and into mid-August, I am confident that the community ed could bring their staff back because there's been people placed on furloughs before and they've been brought back immediately. And I believe most of them are going to be seasoned employees and they'll know exactly what to do. And it seems like we may end up with the problem of having too many parent volunteers. I know that can cause issues as well, but if we can just have the right amount, I just think it's really important that we consider waiting on making any decision. And the governor hasn't even made his final decision as far as whether or not the schools will open, let alone spring sports. So I'm a strong advocate for waiting. We all need a win in this.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I would agree. I think it's too soon to make a decision. And until we get all the facts and know what's going to happen in the next couple of months, I'm for postponing it also.
Others?
I don't have much to add there other than just to kind of reiterate that as long as we don't have a reason that we must decide yes or no tonight, we might as well give it a little more time.
Okay.
Your Honor, I support the consensus. It looks like we have time to kind of think about this and then see what develops in terms of federal and state recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. It's an issue that, just one second, Mark. It's an issue that I've never, I don't think I've ever received as many interesting comments from our community as this has. So it's on everybody's mind. Mark?
Well, I'd put this into a motion to table.
Okay. Have a motion by Mark. Connie? Second. Discussion. I just would add, rather than rehashing this every 2 weeks, do we want to put look, we'll look at this at the end of May, the 1st of June, or are we just going to, keep kind of moving along with it from week to week? Mark?
I'll amend my motion to say to postpone this until we receive word from higher up that we can run it.
Okay. Did you want to say something there, Connie?
I guess I don't feel we need to put a specific date on it. I think it's something that's important enough that we revisit it, whether it's once or twice, or in this particular issue, I'd like to hang on as long as possible before we possibly make a decision to end it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The only reason I throw that in there is if the governor gives a clear stay at home is all done, it sounds like the issue of social distancing is still going to be there. And so I don't know. I don't know if one thing takes care of both of them or not. That's the only reason I was wondering if we wanted to push it a little bit further or whatever. But we've got a motion and a second. Yeah, Todd.
Just to add to the discussion, I think you're right. Stay at home is one part of the decision. Social distancing is another. Can we even, mechanically pull it off? I guess under discussion, my input would be that I don't think the city wants to create passively or intentionally the opportunity to create crowds. Yeah, if there is in fact a social distancing mandate, and so. If we say, well, we're gonna do sports and rec, and then just expect everybody to social distance themselves, I think that we're asking for challenges in terms of who's enforcing that. And I'm a grandparent and a parent, and you couldn't keep me away from a ball game if my kids were in it. I'll guarantee you, I would probably do my best to social distance, but I think kids run. Neighbors get close, it's just a challenge. And so I think, I'm supportive of waiting on this, but I don't think the problems have gone away. But then there's this physical plant part. Our city staff can't be rallied either, at the drop of a hat to change over everything that it takes to kind of prepare and develop park facilities for play, whether it's more informal or organized. So I think we've got to really be cognizant as we continue to visit it in a month or whenever that is, that we're looking at all the pieces, the city operational pieces, everything from, are we spending money on Turf Builder Plus this year or not? Those are all, kind of thoughts about this in anticipation of a certain level of service that we've been providing, high level of service we've been providing to keep our parks and fields and things in shape. So I think all of that has to weigh in. If we made a decision tonight to not have a rec program, then it's easy. We don't spend all that money. We don't irrigate. We don't do a lot of the things we do. But I'm supportive of us taking the time and seeing how the COVID-19 touches down in Minnesota, how it affects our community directly, what the prevailing science and medical advice is. I think all of that can weigh in, and man, it'll be just better in a month from now. Thank you.
Hey, Connie.
I did hear on the news that, I don't know if it was the governor that appointed or asked for volunteers, and they've come up with park and recreational ambassadors. They're just volunteers, but they take it upon themselves, and whether they wear hats or armbands, or attending a baseball game, that they're just there to remind people, in a friendly way, hey, got to spread out a bit. And again, I don't think we have any trouble at all getting volunteers for something like that.
See, I had a job, Your Honor, I had a job like that back when I was a high school teacher. It was at the school dance. My job was to try to enforce social distancing there too. It was always a struggle.
You see the pictures of the beaches in Florida, and the governor says everybody's obeying, and yet everybody's literally bumping shoulders. So people are people. They're going to do what they're going to do. But we have a motion and a second to, at least, Brad.
Just wanted to provide clarification, even with the tabling the item, I want to make sure that it's clear that if we end up having a rec program season, we are talking July and August, based upon the actions that have already been taken by the school district regarding special ed and things of that nature. And I understand Councilmember Lucio that furlough, they can bring them back, but do want to provide the current realities of the situation that if an order did come out mid-May or late May, we would be looking at a July start.
You know, I think we have a motion and a second with the idea that we're not going to make a decision tonight, and we'll play it by ear and bring things forward as things may or may not change, and we can continue to make decisions based on that, I guess. So roll call.
Cross,
Aye.
Holman,
Yes.
Licio,
I,
Tabit,
Aye.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, motion is moved on that. And we're down to council comments. Connie?
I guess I don't have anything really important at this time. Just thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, Zach?
Real quickly, I did want to just thank people for the efforts and sacrifices they have been making. I really believe that the fact that it's relatively easy now to start to think that this isn't as bad health-wise as it could have been is in large part because people have been so good about the sacrifices they've made, social distancing and staying at home. So wanted to urge people to continue to be patient and continue to follow the guidelines. I also wanted to just take a moment to ask staff, I'm sure you're already way ahead of me on this one, but I wanted to note a goal of like reevaluating the processes and platforms that we're using while we're forced to do things differently, just to consider things that may have been difficult or inconvenient before technologically, just to make things more friendly coming out of this for residents, things like more ways to take payments, offer information, remote permitting processes and things like that maybe could be improved now that we're forced to work remote. Maybe people don't have to come into City Hall as much, cloud-based technology, things like that. So just wanted to kind of note that I think this is an opportunity for us to rethink work at home for city staff at all levels and all of the kind of options that were not considered appropriate until now that we're forced to do them. Beyond that, again, just the opportunity to try new ways to communicate and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Todd?
Your Honor, Council, just to build on Zach's recommendation, I completely agree and recommend that we do that. I'd like to see us, because so many people are personally impacted by the projects that we have underway, the construction projects, that if there's any way to make those easy to attend for the project folks to see the contractors meetings, for example, or things like that that are helpful to them so they don't have to be there in person. I don't think we can facilitate them in person, but everything we can do to, I think this format is actually pretty good, and if we could have, the public be able to access the construction meeting for whatever segment of a project is underway, I think that would be super helpful. The other thing I was going to say, and this is anecdotal, on my way to the restaurant or to pick up food or to get groceries, I have cruised by a few of our public parks just to see, and really they have been ghost towns. I have not seen kids congregating out there or anybody else. So, that came up at our last meeting is it a problem or not? Do we need to take backboards down or not? I'm still in the camp of not, because I really, I'm only driving around once in a while, but I really haven't seen any problem in the parks that I've driven by. And I hope that's across the board for the city so that we wouldn't have to amp up any other facilities work. I think people are adhering to the closed park order for the most part, and I hope that continues. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. We got a couple of comments. They're both park related. We had asked our police chief 2 weeks ago to kind of monitor and see what his thoughts were too. So I asked him today if he could just weigh in on what they have discovered. I, like you, Todd, I'm retired, so I've driven around a lot and I'm just not seeing it either. But Chief, what are you seeing?
It would be the same. I'm out during the day, been through OK Park many times in the last 5-6 days due to some work that we're doing. Just zero activity in that specific park. In the evenings, the officers have been quite busy between 5 and 8 on other calls, so they haven't had a lot of time, but they are reporting very minimal activity. So I do know that the trails themselves are constantly busy. So I think people are understanding they can social distance on the trails, and that's good to see. But specific to parks, not a whole lot of movement or activity.
It seemed like originally the hot spots were where the basketball hoops were, and that was Berrywood and Lauren Thompson. There's really nothing over at OK. So I've kind of concentrated on those two, and it was heavy for a while, but since we've talked about it, I just really have not seen that either. So I agree that I think people have taken that seriously. The other thing was, I think that we've maybe not been real clear on what a closed park means. And so I'd asked Brad to just talk about that for, we have signs on some of our parks that say park is closed. Some say just the facilities are closed, but I think it's intimidating to people to wonder what that means. So Brad, could you just?
Yeah, all the signs should say park facilities closed. Based on the local emergency that you declared back in March, we closed park facilities. That would be pavilions, restrooms, and basically it was an intent to not encourage social gatherings or large gatherings. But as the chief has indicated, the trails are open, the open spaces, the fields are open. If mom and dad and son or daughter wanted to play catch or throw the Frisbee, our parks are open for that type of recreation. But do note that the facilities, restrooms and things of that nature are just not open at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. I've had some inquiries, and I think people think that they can't step on the park at all, and that was not our intent. We want them to be, throwing the football or doing whatever in those open areas. They can be there. Anybody else got anything? Mark.
Well, my council comments would be to thank staff and thank citizens for what they're doing through this emergency, and just to tell everybody to stay safe.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. Did I catch everybody there? City Administrator?
Yeah, just two items. The North Forestry project that you approved earlier today. It is believed that the road restrictions are to come off yet this week. The contractor is planning to start setting up as quickly as possible and start construction probably as quickly as next week. We did prepare letters that go out to the affected property owners that we will send out tomorrow to let them know that activity will commence next week, along with all the project information, including the contractor, the construction management or manager, or the construction engineer's contact information, as well as the on-site inspector that will be part of the job. So that will move forward pretty quickly. Secondly, just a reminder, I know that we sent an email yesterday, but the league did cancel the 2020 annual conference that was set to take place in June. So we have canceled the reservations for the hotel as well as the registrations with the league.
Okay, thank you. The calendars are getting slimmer and slimmer of activities to attend and be a part of too. Todd?
I just had a question for Brad, and that had to do with first of all, hats off to the folks that are working on the city Facebook page, because I appreciate kind of seeing the updates and the types of things that come out on the Facebook page. I'm not sure that's the right spot for specific project area updates, but But I think it would be helpful if the Facebook linked people to the website so that now that these projects are moving forward, people can see the link to go get more detail. And so if the letters are going out tomorrow, it would be great if our Facebook was updated and our website was updated. And I think we've always had that in the past. I think we've always had the contractor updates have been on our website. And so the residents will know that, and they'll go click on that, and they know what's going on this week and the next week and so on forth. But I think the Facebook place is a good place to say we're moving forward on it. Here's where you go to get the detail. So if that wasn't in the queue, I'm hoping that's soon on the heels of the letter going out. Thank you.
Okay, city attorney?
No report.
Nothing tonight, okay. So I guess we're ready for an adjournment. I just want to thank the staff and the council for all of your extra efforts. This puts us in. Appreciate your being a member of the team and your diligence, and all of you stay safe too. So I look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Cross,
Second.
second Holman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You gotta do
Okay.
roll call.
Have a good week.
No, hold on. We got to do roll call. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, that's not a problem. Cross,
Aye.
Coleman,
Absolutely.
Licio,
Yep,
Babbitt,
Aye.
and Olson.
I should have it down about the time the pandemic's over here. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good